Right, so, over a year ago, I made a video talking about the original version of Cars and its questionable deleted scenes. Turns out, it did a lot better than I thought and became one of my most viewed videos, so if anyone who watched that video is watching this one, thank you so much for watching that. I really appreciate it. That said, I didn't talk about every deleted scene from the movie in that video. I only talked about the ones that were creepy to me. And there were a couple more that aren't really that creepy, but were just deleted scenes. So I just thought, why not talk about those deleted scenes, but in a video that's not as dark as that one? Cause those scenes felt a little more dark and edgy. These two, however, they would have been fine probably if they were in the final version of the movie. But without further ado, let's just get into the video and talk about these two deleted scenes. Starting with Motorama Girls. So basically what happens in this deleted scene is that this is the story of how Ramon and Flo fell in love. During a night of karaoke, McQueen asks Ramon how they fell in love. Ramon responds by telling him the story of how the group she was in, known as the Motorama Girls, came to Radiator Springs. So they stopped in Radiator Springs and killed time with the townies, as Ramon put it. Also, just for the sake of detail in this video, can I bring up the fact that this car is kind of taking the equivalent to a shower? I know that's what car washes are for, but this still feels a little bit dirty, I'm not gonna lie. If this was the reason the deleted scene got, deleted, I honestly would have just removed that, but maybe still kept the scene in, and I'm just gonna talk about that in a bit here. So eventually all the Motorama girls, including Flo, come to Ramon's, and they all get paint jobs, except for Flo, because...
What's the matter? You're too good to paint me? I said, no, baby. You're too good for me to paint. I can't touch a classic.
Well, you know what they say. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Totally can't blame Ramon for never wanting to paint her, considering her paint job is already that good to him. So, every Motorama girl, except for Flo, leaves the town. And Flo ends up staying. And McQueen ends up asking,
how did you know she was the one? You just know, man. You just know.
Damn, that line just hits hard. Unlike the darker deleted scenes in the movie, which I'm grateful were actually deleted, I kind of wish this one wasn't deleted. You could say it got deleted because it was unnecessary filler, or because of that sexual joke. But I think with a tweak or two, it could have worked into the final version of the movie in some way. Call me crazy, but I honestly feel like this story, Lightning's question and Ramon's answer, could have possibly helped Lightning improve his relationship with Sally. It's no secret that Sally was not fond of Lightning at first when he entered the town. Though, considering what a douchebag he was in the first hour of the movie, it's pretty understandable. She was very important to Lightning's character development and growth throughout the movie. And after Lightning had matured, she became really fond of him. And that's basically how they became a couple. I feel like if Ramon told Lightning this story, he could have used it to improve his own relationship in the movie. But honestly, I can definitely see why it was deleted. Looking at the final version of the movie plus this deleted scene, it's honestly hard to picture it fitting in anywhere. It's really still a very good deleted scene, and I really wish they managed to keep it in somewhere. Or maybe, quite possibly, they could have used it for a Cars tune. And in fact, this isn't the last time I bring up the Cars tune series in this video. Let's just say you'll see why in the next deleted scene. But anyways, let's move on to the next scene. This next deleted scene is called Traffic School. So one morning, Lightning wakes up in the Cozy Cove Motel, and we could say this is quite possibly after the tractor tipping scene and the mayor's driving backwards scene. And so, McQueen is just sleeping there until Sheriff wakes him up. And let's just say it looks, well, something like this, probably.
Get up, Buttercup. Time for traffic school.
Traffic school? What?
You heard the judge. You got to learn some manners. Come on, Twinkletoes.
I guess judging by that line, we could probably assume that one of Lightning McQueen's punishments was that he was going to have to go through traffic school originally. Jeez. I still wonder how he ended up there after the lost scene. There are some interesting things about this scene. Like Sally being the teacher, which makes sense, you know. Also, I can't be the only one who thinks the original version of Sally has a spoiler. Or at least, can't unsee it. That is obviously the pinstripe tattoo from the movie, but it kind of just looks like a spoiler. I guess I just can't unsee it for some reason, but I don't know. So then we see Mater there. Whoa, hold up. Why is Mater a student? It's pretty obvious he knows how to drive. And before you say, he was probably just supposed to be a supervisor or something. Listen to this one line and tell me you still think he's a supervisor.
Well then, I suppose you wouldn't mind showing the rest of the class how to properly indicate a left turn, would you?
There is no one else there, so it's probably implied that Mater and Lightning are the two students there. Also, Mater says, I saved you a seat. I'm pretty sure the supervisor would be sitting right next to the student, wherever he is, not just randomly sitting somewhere, hoping for that student to sit right next to him. Then again, I don't know too much about driving school, but if it's anything like my school in terms of supervisors, then I would just guess that, you know? So don't really take my word for it when I say that's how driving school works, because I don't really know how it works in terms of supervisors and teachers and whatever, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't work like that. So McQueen doesn't have any headlights or blinkers, so then he's given some. And by the way, I'm just going to bring up that this McQueen design right here was almost brought back in a canceled Cars Toon short called To Protect and Serve. It was unknown why this short got canceled. However, it did see the light of day through merchandise and storybook sales. But that's really just about it. Similarly to how the Radiator Springs 500 and a half brought back the graveyard deleted scene from the first movie, To Protect and Serve would have been the closest we got to seeing Lightning McQueen going to traffic school animated. So as they continue driving through Radiator Springs, they eventually go by Stanley's statue.
Not gonna lie, this is actually a really clever way to say who Stanley is.
The final version of the movie's way of telling us who Stanley is was also very clever too. We can see it on the name of the statue, of course, during the montage of the introduction to Radiator Springs. I just say that the way Sally told us was actually a pretty nice way.
What is that thing?
That thing is the famous Radiator Springs. Stanley found the springs over 80 years ago and was the only source of fresh water for miles. Stanley and that spring are what put this town on the map.
This town's on a map?
So then Guido sets up a scene for parallel parking. Lightning tries it, but he keeps screwing up badly. Eventually, he gets so annoyed with it, he decides to do it his own way.
Not bad, huh?
Aside from the one inconsistency that Mater is a student in this scene for some reason, this was a pretty good deleted scene. albeit its deletion was actually very necessary considering the fact that fixing the road was already punishment enough. I don't know if in the original version of the movie he actually was responsible for the damage of the road or not, but I think that him fixing the road was probably the right choice, and I'm glad they went with that in the final version. I mean, we don't know too much about the original version of Cars, other than the fact that it was horrifying at first. Remind me again why I decided to put that one part where I was talking about this scene into my channel intro. I'm still kind of mad at myself for choosing to creep you guys out with that part of the intro, and I'm sorry about that, guys. But back to talking about Motorama Girls and Traffic School, I gotta be honest, I think these two scenes would have been fine if they made it into the final version of the movie with a few tweaks. And that's saying something, considering that in a world full of really weird and dark Cars deleted scenes, these two and Top Down Truck Stop, which I actually discussed in the first video and isn't as dark as the other three and discussed in that video, are actually pretty good scenes that I think would have been fine if they were in the final version of the movie. I don't think any of them really fit there, and they were scrapped for better scenes, to be honest. Keep in mind, without the top-down truck stop scene getting removed, we wouldn't have the tuners. And it's not really like any of these two scenes would have fit in the final version of the movie, but they're pretty good for what they are. But anyways, guys, that will do it for this video. What were your thoughts on these two deleted scenes? Would you have wanted either of these two in the movie, or do you think they're perfectly fine being out of it? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, please leave a like on this video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you guys so much for watching, and this is Kirby Tankton Gaming Productions 39. See y'all next time.